Hey everyone, welcome back. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me for this explainer today because we're about to unpack a true masterpiece of nonsense literature. We are diving into a famous poem called The Power of Music. In Bengali, it's originally titled Ganan Gunto. Now, if you've ever had a neighbor who loved to just belt out songs at the top of their lungs, but let's be honest, couldn't quite carry a tune to save their life, you are going to deeply, deeply appreciate this one.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Can a song actually be so bad that it literally topples buildings? I mean, it's an utterly absurd premise, right? But that is exactly the kind of comedic exaggeration that drives the entire narrative we're about to explore. We're looking at a story where terrible music isn't just annoying, it's treated like a literal weapon of mass destruction.
Seriously, just listen to this quote from the poem. "The welkin weeps to hear his screech, and mighty mansions tumble." By the way, welkin is just an old-school word for the sky, so the sky is literally crying, and these massive, impressive houses are just collapsing under the sheer force of this guy's voice. It's so dramatic, it's completely incredulous, and honestly, it perfectly sets the stage for our story.
Section 1. Meet the Terrible Singer. Bisma Lochan Sharma's Delhi to Burma Tour.
So, a little context here. The Power of Music was written by Sukumar Ray back in 1923. And it was part of his famous collection called Abul Tabul, which roughly translates to the weird and the absurd. Ray was an absolute pioneer of Bengali nonsense poetry. And this specific piece, it's this highly energetic 20-line single-stanza poem that has become such a massive classic, it's actually a staple of the ICSE Class 10 English curriculum in India. And this is exactly where we get to know the man behind all this architectural devastation, Bisma Lochan Sharma. This guy sings loudly every single summer, and his voice somehow carries on this completely ridiculous geographical scale. We're talking all the way from Delhi to Burma.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict of the poem. Because here's the thing, Bisma's intent is actually pure. He means well. He sings as though he has staked his very life on it, just completely hell-bent on sharing his passion with the world. But the public's reality? Yeah, entirely different story. People are absolutely dazed and amazed. The human listeners are so desperate to escape the noise that they are literally trampled in a panic rout, just left languishing, pale and sickly. And Bisma? He is totally oblivious to the suffering of his own audience.
Section 2. Absolute Musical Chaos. The Escalating Destruction. Let's actually break down the timeline of how the impact of his booming voice escalates, because it gets wild fast. Within minutes, people are literally pleading for their lives, crying out, "My friend, we're near our end." But Bisma? Completely unconcerned. He just keeps going. Then, within hours, the chaos hits the animals. Bullock carts are overturning in the streets, horses are outright refusing to work. Give it a few days, and the environment itself turns against him. Massive trees start collapsing with a crash you can hear a mile away. And finally, after weeks of this, the cosmos themselves just can't take it anymore, and the sky weeps. The destruction literally scales up from humans to animals to nature all the way up to the heavens.
Section 3. The Art of Nonsense. Dissecting the literary devices.
Now, Ray uses a really bouncy narrative AABBCC rhyming structure here, but the real magic is in his wordplay. He relies heavily on hyperbole, exaggerating to an absolutely ridiculous extent, like saying mighty mansions tumble. Then there's personification, where he gives human traits to non-human things. Think of the welkin weeps, or horses resenting the blare. And finally, alliteration. This is the repetition of consonant sounds, and it's what gives the poem its rhythmic, comedic punch. You can hear it in phrases like turn turtle and feathered fly.
And just notice how these devices are specifically applied to the animals. The wretched brutes, the horses, are whining and staring with their feet up in the air. The fishes, they're diving deep below the lake just trying to find an ounce of silence. And my absolute personal favorite, the birds are turning turtle, literally flipping completely upside down mid-flight because they've lost control of their wings from the sheer noise. It is just wonderfully, joyfully absurd.
Section 4. The Golden Gift of Silence. The climax of the poem.
So, at this point, we need a hero. Someone or, well, something that can finally put an end to this music. Enter the billy goat. In the poem, Ray describes this goat as a most sagacious fellow, meaning it's incredibly wise or shows really keen judgment. And this is just a brilliant contrast. Think about it. You have Bisma, a human who completely lacks any shred of self-awareness or common sense. And you have a literal farm animal stepping up to act as the voice of reason and sanity. The goat represents the inevitable return to natural order. And let me tell you, the goat does not ask politely. As the quote goes, he downs his horns and charges straight, with bellow answering bellow. It's this sudden, incredibly violent clash. The goat physically charges right at Bhisma, matching his loud, discordant singing voice with a massive animalistic bellow of its own. All those awful strains of Bhisma's song are just instantly tossed and whirled away by this blast of brutal violence.
And the result of that epic charge? The golden gift of silence. It's that sudden, beautiful peace granted to the world right after the violent interruption of Bhisma's disruptive singing. It's this really funny, highly rhythmic ending where noise essentially had to step in and defeat noise just to restore balance to the world.
Section 5. Satire and Hidden Meanings, Pulling Back the Curtain.
So, the crucial point is this just a funny poem about a bad singer? Well, let's pull back the curtain a bit on the historical context here. This poem was published back in 1923, which was right during British colonial rule in India. And at that time, the British administration had imposed really strict censorship on the press. So, Sukumar Ray cleverly used nonsense poetry, completely disguised as just light verse for kids, to evade that censorship. While we're just looking at the source material objectively here, it's fascinating to note that many scholars interpret this poem as a brilliant, hidden critique of the societal and administrative conditions in early 20th century colonial Bengal.
Looked at through that lens, suddenly all the pieces kind of click into place, don't they? Bhisma represents persistence without self-awareness. He is totally oblivious to the harm he's causing everyone around him. So this becomes a satirical jab at incompetent authority, basically imposing your presence or policies on a society without any regard for the devastating consequences. And finally, you have the goat, which represents the inevitable restoration of natural order. It suggests that eventually, no matter what, a corrective force will always rise up to stop the chaos when things go too far awry.
Which leaves us with a really fascinating final thought to chew on today. Who exactly are the Bhishmalochan Sharmas in our world right now? Just persisting without a drop of self-awareness, and perhaps more importantly, where's the goat? It really makes you wonder just how often we tolerate incredibly disruptive incompetence simply because we think it's well-meant. I really hope this breakdown gave you a whole new appreciation for Sukumar Ray's absolute genius. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.